So, Tom, pushing on to the questions that people want to know the answers to. What's your top hobby tips? What are your top hobby tips? If you had any top hobby tips, what would those be? Tips on hobby.
Find a makeup paint that you like.
Yeah.
And sort of stick with it and sort of try all the different ones and don't feel you have to stick with any one brand. If you like a specific manufacturer's paint and nobody else likes it, then don't feel you have to follow sort of the trend in paint. So it's an individual thing.
You would say just find some paints that work for you and then stick with those paints.
Well, don't feel like you have to, really, but also don't feel like you have to change, because if everyone says, oh, this paint set is much better than this one, but you really like the one that you're using, stick with it.
Yeah, because you can get really different, styles. Some are made much more glossy or matte or satin finish on the different paints that you're using, and I've certainly found different brands have different things, different ones I like. So some really have to be shaken up. Army Painter, I'm looking at you, Army Painter. You really have to shake. There's that same with the contrast that will just come out. They really have to be shaken up. Have you tried those as well, Tom? Contrast.
I've tried a couple of the contrasts, and I will admit I don't get on with them very well.
Mm-hmm.
They don't stick with sort of my style of painting, which is, I'm not a brilliant painter, but I'm a pretty quick painter.
Yeah.
And my big thing is to prime in sort of like the base colors. Because I now do nearly all of my priming by airbrush.
Yeah.
So I've got sort of, having a look, about 10 different colors of primer.
Yeah.
So I can sort of prime sort of a model almost pretty much what it's going to be quite quickly.
Yeah, I've done a lot of personal work on speed painting, getting much faster at my painting, maybe sometimes to compromising quality, but not that bad, I don't think. Certainly finding that a base color that's going to work for most of the models. And if they like my Deutschland Africa core, they're mostly that sandy desert color. So I just sprayed them that, and then you just have to pick out the skin and a few straps and the guns, and away you go. A bit of a wash, and they're pretty much done. So I knocked out a whole army of those guys in really just a day, and that was helped that I chose that initial color. So that's tip number 2, I guess. Get the right base coat, and you save a lot of time.
Yeah, and I think also sort of picking out your color palette. If you're painting even like a whole army, if you pick out the color palette before you start, and sort of work, if it's a fantasy army or if a historical army, like a historical army is somewhat easier because you know what colors you've got to use really within reason. But that sort of, I realized when I first sort of started painting historical figures, and I was sort of Googling what color socks somebody should have worn. I thought, this is ridiculous. So like I've drawn the line.
Should be black.
So socks, I don't worry about what color they're going to be. But I think by sort of having that relatively limited palette just makes painting it makes the whole force look better, I think.
Yeah.
It also complements each other.
Color theory, get yourself a color wheel, color theory. As an app, you can get an app on your phone straight away and just have a look at those. Because I'm afraid I couldn't work it out. I'd paint a model and then I'd put a color on and be like, why doesn't this work? Why does this color look weird? And of course, I didn't realize. I just like, why do some colors work and others don't? Go and have a look at color theory. Definitely, that's another good tip. Any other tips, Tom?
I think also sort of decide if you're sort of a figure painter, a sort of squad painter, or sort of an army painter. Like I'm very much an army painter. I batch paint maybe sort of 12 to sort of 15 figures at a time. I'm sort of always working on sort of like I paint an army or a force, finish that, then start another one. I tend to not have multiple things on the go, and I sort of work. My stuff looks best on the table from a couple of feet away. If you look at it closely, you'll see there's probably tiny little bits missing, things that could be tidied up and look much better. But that's because I'd rather paint a figure in 45 minutes.
Yeah, the 2 meter rule isn't just for self-isolating, it's also for looking at models as well. How does that model look from 2 meters away? How does it look good? It looks good.
Because I saw this morning that I think Monkey had put something up about like how long it takes heavy metal painters to sort of paint
I
their
saw.
stuff.
Oh, that was actually really good. That was really good to read that.
And sort of like 5 weeks to paint as like a full-time job, 5 weeks to paint a 10-man squad.
It was like 2.5 days or something per
mini
per miniature.
And they're just at the end of the day just troops.
Yeah, who has the time for that?
No, you're looking like a year for over a year for an army.
I don't. I mean, I like a nice looking model, but I don't value. It's not that important to me. I do value when someone puts the time and effort. And I'm like, wow, they look amazing. I'm really impressed at what you've done there. It's amazing. I do value it in that sense. But for me, my time is so valuable, and I've got so many models to paint. I just model. I wouldn't want to spend one day on them. And maybe if I bought a Primark model, for example, from Forge World, and I wanted to spend, over several weeks, a few hours on my day off, just doing like, okay, I'll do a leg and a bit here, and it might add up over time to be. I certainly couldn't sit down for a day and a half and just paint a model. That would just.
So I bought the Lehman Russ Primark model, and it was strange because it was some of the only hobbying I've ever done that I really didn't enjoy.
Yeah.
Because I just found it sort of really stressful because it was like this is a relatively expensive single model that all really comes down to like putting the right bits together and giving it a really good paint job, and I just found that really unenjoyable.
Yeah. Well, because I do a lot of batch painting like yourself, and I'm like, right, I have to spend the time and paint this one really well, and it's like, oh, it's like a different set of muscles or something. It's like it's not what I'm used to doing. So I can turn out a fairly good one, but I'm never going to be insert name of your favorite hate painter here. Doing really really fancy stuff. I can do rank and file pretty well and pretty quick. But when it comes to like a character model, I'm like, oh, I want to make this really special. I maybe haven't got quite so many tools in the bag, and it does get a little bit kind of like, oh, what else can I do? I just can't be bothered to spend that much time on them, if I'm really honest as well, I guess. What was your best hobby tool? That's a question. What's your best tool?
Emery boards.
Oh, I wasn't expecting emery boards. Tell me about your emery boards, Tom.
I just find them, especially when you're working with plastic or soft metal, I just find them really useful. They're like always they're my go-to, really, as well as a pair of good quality snips.
Yeah.
I've finally sort of treated myself to a pair of the Tamiya ones because I also do quite a lot of scale modeling now, and so when I got some of the Tamiya ones, and they are just they make life so much easier when you can actually sort of snip something really close into the detail of what you're doing, so you haven't got a huge bit of sprue to take off, or things aren't pinging off in the curtains or wherever.
We've all been there, like you gently clip, ping. Where's it gone?
You're clipping that sort of like an autocannon barrel off of a sprue, which is like half the thickness of the sprue.
Yeah,
and it just snaps in the middle and that sort of thing.
It happens a lot. I mean, as I say, I have the worst clippers in the world. I've had them for over 10 years. I just need to throw them away. The spring's gone in the middle, and they're just so blunt and awful. I just need to get a new pair of clippers. That's all that.
It was, without a doubt, like the best 20-25 quid I've ever spent in hobby stuff.
I know people speak very highly. There was the GW ones when they come together, they clip, and instead of clipping to an angle like a triangle at the end, they actually cut straight, so you get a flat end when they cut them. So I've been tempted to think about maybe getting some of those myself. Emery boards. So you use this for filing off the mold,
filing off details, things, and also things like if you've like clipped off, like you're building troops which have got like the foot on the bottom.
Yeah,
they're really good, just like getting those flush to sit on a base really quickly. We can also do like mold lines on arms and all sorts with them. Just the same as you can with sort of really fine sandpaper or a file, but they're just that bit softer.
Those out there who only have ever used the newer Citadel models, there are a whole world of roughly molded plastic historical figures out there where actually,
is that a face? Is it a severe wound, or is it just, it's something out of the thing?
I've got to put these arms on this model. They don't fit. Yeah, I know.
Well, just make them fit.
You have to make them fit. They don't fit. That's fine. That's just how it is. So after that, what's your best tool? Motivational tips. What keeps you motivated?
Normally, I always sort of paint and build armies for events. So they'll be like, oh, I'm going here in August, right? So sort of June and July, I'll be starting to get ready. I'll be building, painting the army for that. Same as with things down the club. Sort of like down the club, we'll sort of like arrange a game maybe with yourself, and we'll say, right, what we're going to play in a week's time or 2 weeks' time, and then I will sort of get something ready to play with that, because I try not to ever play with sort of unpainted models.
Yeah, I don't like to play with unpainted models myself. It's
I find that good motivation, and then sort of even if I just sort of need a bit more time to I'm working on something, but I will sort of arrange a sort of deadline for that. I'm sort of not brilliant at just I'm going to finish this just for the point of finishing it.
Yeah,
sort of a thing.
I mean I'm terrible for that. I've got so many models. I'm like, why do I have this? And I'll paint it, and then I go put it in a box.
Yeah, I think I've really tried. Last year, I sort of really tried to sort of get sort of inspired by the Piles project. I sort of tried to get a handle on sort of like my hobby butterflying, and sort of go, right, what is it I'm sort of working on, and sort of trying to sort of keep things sort of in line and project by project. And I have most of my projects in their own boxes, and so it's like, right, I've got this box out, I'm working on this till it's done, then it's gone. I think if I have everything around me, sort of like how I have at the moment, it's much easier just to, I'm going to do a bit of this here and a bit of that, and you never really seem to get anywhere.
Yeah. No, I felt a lot of guilt. I do feel guilty if I have a load of models that are just sitting there and they've not been painted. Well, I didn't need to buy them, did I really? If I've not got around to painting them yet. So once they're done, and they can be used. And I try not to buy more stuff. I try to buy less and paint more. Isn't that the mantra of us all? Buy less, paint more.
But it's like, I think it might have been last year or the year before last, where I bought an army, painted it, and played with it within like a few weeks, about a month at the most, from like ordering the thing to it being finished.
Yeah.
And that was like such a cool feeling. Oh, well, I haven't been looking at these for like 3 or 4 years before I get to play with them. And it was sort of like, oh, this is quite cool. You've got that initial excitement of getting them, and then you never get sick of seeing them in their boxes.
Yeah, you get a lot of energy when you first start a project, and it's about riding that and getting it done is good. It's good. So yeah, motivation for events and games is good too.
And they don't even have to be ticketed events. Just organising a game with a mate, or even just having I want to display these. Like, I'm working to get my English Civil War finished, just because I want to be able to like take some photographs of the whole thing together.
Oh yeah,
that's all
good. It's gonna look good when it's all finished.